The new tractors handed over to Gambian farmers by President Barrow is expected to create job opportunity and boost agricultural production. Ugandan authorities have introduced new measures amid the rise of new COVID-19 infections. And the focal person of the Child Protection Agency says laws against child labor are not enforced in the Gambia. Well, this and more coming ahead in News Desk. Hello there, this is Africa TV. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. Now, the Gambia government, through the Minister of Agriculture, has inaugurated the 50 tractors meant to support farmers towards a productive season. The heavy machinery is expected to create youth employment to boost crop production and productivity in the country. President Adam Barrow, who presided over the handing over ceremony on Monday, said the project will facilitate the sale of quality rice at a subsidized price. Amindao has more details of that in this report.
Agriculture, as a major driver of growth for many countries across the world, remains as the sustainer of the food bank for consumers and revenue stream for producers. In the Gambia, the sector accounts for about 32% of the gross domestic product, providing employment and income for almost 80% of the population. Performance has, however, declined significantly due to lack of proper policies and management, coupled with inadequate farming equipment and lack of credit facilities for farmers. The collaboration with the government of Japan for the procurement of these tractors is considered significant in the revival process of the agricultural industry. President Barrow expressed commitment in the implementation of plans to produce enough rice to be sold at a subsidized price in the Gambia.
Ladies and gentlemen, KR was pioneered as a rural development strategy targeting developing countries. It focuses on commercializing agriculture to effectively enhance production and productivity, specifically targeting underprivileged farmers. With the KR2, it is implemented in the form of selling quality Japanese rice at a subsidized price for underprivileged Gambian farmers. The proceeds are deposited in a special account at the Central Bank of the Gambia and invested in relevant short or medium-term projects to boost the production and productivity levels of crops and livestock value chains. More importantly, these projects seek to improve food security, uplift income status, and reduce hardship for rural women farmers.
The President explained some of the operational and management context of these machines as a means to employ more youth.
Wisely, it is premised on lessons learned from previous agricultural projects in which equipment and materials procured are distributed to farmer groups, served for a shorter while than expected. In most cases, this was due to inappropriate use and mismanagement. This time around, a public-private partnership model has been developed, through which 20 tractors will be allocated to and managed by a competent private individual. The remaining 30 will be operated and managed initially using the plowing team model. In this model, youth will be employed and trained to operate the tractors and provide services such as plowing, sowing, and harvesting to the farming communities across the country.
The KR2 state-of-the-art tractors is a machine with sophisticated systems, including the GPS navigation systems. The bilateral relationship between Japan and the Gambia is considered strong and beneficial to the people of both countries. Along with the inauguration of these farming tools, the Gambia government announced the delivery of more than 3,000 metric tons of rice to be sold for local consumption. Reporting for iAfrica News, Amindao.
Amindao reporting there as 50 new tractors were handed over to Gambian farmers by the president in a ceremony held yesterday at New Yundum ahead of the 2021 rainy season in the Gambia. Now, in a bid to fast-track its COVID-19 vaccination program, Tunisia has introduced a mobile immunization campaign with the aim of overcoming the virus in different parts of the country. The new initiative also will enable more people vaccinated against the virus, especially those in serious health complications. Now, authorities have urged citizens to register on the vaccination program as more than 1 million COVID-19 vaccines have been administered so far since March 2021. Here's more details of that in this report.
The regional health department set up near-to-home vaccination centers for the elderly and the handicapped. The project targets more than 10,000 people. Tunisian medics and paramedics welcomed the initiative.
The mobile vaccination campaign is faster and more efficient than the traditional one. The registration and vaccination lasts a few minutes. This operation has made our work easier. This is a good start.
Many senior citizens who are reluctant to go to some distant vaccination centers are now getting inoculated in their own neighborhoods.
The vaccination is very important. It's saving lives across Tunisia. The mobile service allows people in critical health condition to get inoculated anywhere. The pandemic will not end without vaccination.
The Minister of Health declared that over 1 million COVID-19 vaccines have been administered since the start of the campaign in March. Meanwhile, more than 2 million people have registered on the national vaccination platform evax.tn.
We'll increase the number of mobile vaccination centers and provide more vaccines from different sources and laboratories. We urge all citizens to register on the national vaccination platform to get inoculated and to flatten the curve of coronavirus.
According to the COVID-19 task force, 272,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine will be delivered in June, as well as 50,000 doses of the Sputnik V vaccine. In addition, Tunisia will receive 500,000 doses of the Sinovac vaccine this month. Tunisia has launched the National COVID-19 Vaccination Registry Project. The goal of the project is to provide detailed information about people who are being vaccinated as well as side effects. The health department plans to vaccinate more than 3 million people in the next few months.
Tunisian authorities initiated new measures to vaccinate more people against the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in commemoration of the World Environment Day, the United Nations has launched an initiative called the UN Decade on Restoration. The move is aimed at preventing, halting and resolving the degradation of ecosystem on every continent and in every ocean by uniting governments, businesses, civil society and private citizens.
And destruction of the ecosystem. Countries across the world have suffered a great deal due to the actions of mankind, with the Gambia not out of the circle of victims. The coastal zone of the Gambia consists of 70 kilometers open ocean and 200 kilometers sheltered coast. Of this space, only 20 kilometers of the open coastal line, including Banjul, Bakau and Fajara, is significantly developed. Despite its development, the coastal strip has been subjected to considerable pressure from human activities for many decades, thereby altering so much of the natural habitats. Aside from the coastal areas, land clearing for agricultural development and timber harvesting has had considerable impact. According to the UN boss, this initiative will safeguard the planet's resources and create millions of new jobs in 2030, $7 trillion every year. Gambia's marine environment has international importance for protection and management of the
is joined the list of initiating plans to advance despite the growing demand. It is not yet nation will have in the new of that report.
Into the feasibility of digital currency direct to customers.
90% of central banks around the world are currently looking into this. The reason for the central banks doing these is as a direct response to many things that's happened in the financial world. First of all, unprecedented times we're moving into in terms of monetary policy and fiscal policy around the world, and as well as financial technologies that really came out of the blue and is taking over.
Central banks don't deal with customers directly, but a central bank digital currency would mean a new relationship. A CBDC is a form of electronic cash linked to a sovereign currency, protected by monetary policy and inflation targeting. While the central bank isn't ready to introduce a digital currency just yet, some experts believe they should.
The central banks need to look out of the box and stay relevant in times where there's things like cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and lots of fintech solutions that's seeing the light these days, taking over many of the functions that central bank used to do.
If you are a central banker or an entity or person close to central bank, then I think it's positive because it's a much more efficient form of transaction in terms of speed, efficiency of cost, etc., and also has greater implications, in my view, for monetary policy and how they can be implemented.
Despite concerns over end user access by the central bank, a move towards a digital currency is seen as inevitable as South Africa seeks to keep up with global financial trends. But the SARB's announcement is clear that the current process is no more than a study which will be complete next year.
You can reach a much larger audience. You can bank people that's never been able to get a bank account for whatever reason, and we know that there's billions and billions of adults around the world that are not banked. It removes lots of barriers to entry to them because actually connectivity in itself is not really a barrier.
Some countries envisage a cashless system, but experts warn of risks on privacy. CBDC can also open up consumers' finances to the effects of monetary policy decisions directly. There's also risks to commercial banks' liquidity.
And from the report there in South Africa, from the Rainbow Nation, if you like, we will now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, there's more news coming ahead.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Following the announcement by the Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, of the dates for the general voter registration scheduled from the 29th of May to 11th July 2021, the National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, reminds the public that voter registration is an integral part of the electoral process, as it is key to franchise as stated in Section 39 of the Constitution, and hence a civic right and a duty for all eligible Gambians. The NCCE therefore encourages every eligible citizen to fully participate in this crucial national exercise, as it is the basis for any credible and participatory election. The National Council for Civic Education informs the public that to register and acquire a voter's card in the upcoming general voter registration exercise, one has to prove your Gambian citizenship by producing one of the following documents as stated in Section 12 of the Elections Act: birth certificate, ID card, passport, or alcalo or district chief attestation. As the Gambia prepares for this very important national exercise, the National Council for Civic Education reminds the public to stay away from any altercation and refrain from the use of abusive language, provocative actions, intimidations, thugs and physical confrontation at all times, as these contravene the laws of the Gambia. The public is encouraged to follow due process to seek redress when the need arises during the period to ensure that peace and stability prevail throughout the process. Voter's card is your key to franchise. Register to vote and vote wisely. This message is brought to you by the National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, with support from the United Nations Development Programme.
Welcome back, and once again many thanks for joining us. Now, the Youth Coordinator and Advocacy Focal Person of Child Protection Agency has said that laws against child labor in the Gambia are not enforced. Lamin Sedi made this remark during an interview with our reporter Ndeye Sese ahead of the 2021 World Child Labor Day.
World Child Labor Day is observed annually on the 12th June to pay attention on child labor and means to eradicate the practice. This is significant as it helps in raising awareness about the harmful mental and physical problem faced by children across the world. As the commemoration draws nearer, the Youth Coordinator and Advocacy Focal Person of Child Protection Alliance, Lamin K. Sedi, is of the view that laws against child labor in the Gambia are not enforced. He called on authorities to refocus attention in protecting the rights and welfare of children in the country.
So we have very good laws, but implementation, enforcement of laws are the issue. But they have set out clear punishments for people who, even employ children. There are clear cut provisions in our laws, but they are not enforced, they are not monitored, they are not, the institutional frameworks are not there to have those laws in place.
In different contexts, children could be seen as breadwinners for many families who rely on their labor due to high levels of poverty. Child Protection Alliance officials urge parents to by all means prevent their children from engaging in hard labor no matter the poverty status.
For us, we believe first, parents have to understand the consequences of their actions, of taking children responsible for their feeding, for their all those issues that the family may need. Once children are responsible of this, it becomes difficult because they would have to go and get it out. How they get it out becomes the issue now. And that's why you have children venture into all these issues.
Children could be also found carrying out different forms of child labor in the Gambia, a situation Mr. Sedi has labeled as dangerous enough to paralyze career dreams of the young ones.
Of course, child labor comes in different categories. For example, you have children who may be engaged into petty trading. You may have children who may be doing domestic work and so forth. But having worst forms of child labor would be children working in deep seas, child prostitution, and so forth. This constitute worst forms of child labor, and we have all this in the Gambia, really.
This year's World Child Labor Day focuses on actions for 2021 International Year for the elimination of child labor. According to reports, 182 on the worst forms of child labor is known to have been taking place when the COVID-19 crisis was reversing progress made in tackling the problem. It is estimated that there are 152 million victims of child labor worldwide. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Desise.
And from the report there by Desise, next to Uganda. Now, the Ugandan government has declared a new coronavirus measures as part of efforts to contain the new surging infections in the country. Inter-district travels and places of public gatherings such as schools are also being shut down to help limit the spread of the virus. Now, like many other countries, this African country is also faced with shortage of vaccines to immunize more people against the virus. Here's more of that in this report.
There was a visible rush of parents picking their children up from school after the closure of all education institutions as the new measures took effect on Monday. Some of these students were only 3 weeks into a new school term.
It has affected us too much. Yeah, as in you have concentrated, you are trying to catch up with the teachers, yeah, catching up with the notes, and you are in moods of books.
Some parents worry their children are more at risk of harm away from school.
Government should have been more strict on schools. We are taking the children home. We work away from our homes. We shall instead be bringing the disease to the children.
But school infections have been a major concern. There has also been an increase in cases among young people, most aged between 20 and 39 years. Health officials say the poor compliance to the standard operating procedures like washing hands and wearing a face mask have led to a surge in cases. The capital Kampala is the most affected, registering an average 500 cases per day. To curb further spread, inter-district travels have also been banned, except for the metropolitan part of the capital Kampala. Religious gatherings and weekly open markets are suspended too.
Travel from Category A countries, as defined by the Minister of Health, remains suspended.
Vaccine shortages have hampered progress so far. Over 758,000 people have received their first. An additional 175,000 doses from the COVAX facility are expected this month.
In addition, government will secure 300,000 doses of Sinovac vaccine donated by our friends, the Chinese government. But I want to buy. I don't want to depend on donations. We shall buy. We shall buy from Johnson & Johnson, the Americans, from these Chinese, and even from the Russians.
The government hopes to vaccinate at least 21 million people over the next 12 months.
Ugandan government reimposed new COVID-19 measures as part of efforts to contain the new COVID-19 infections in the country. And from that report in Kampala, Uganda, we finally bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this, as always, as ever, you can the website on Africa. For now,